Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our presentation, or sort of kind of really more like it's a live discussion and some demonstration of our title slide here says being a resident assistant 101, but really it's both courses. We've got 101 and 201. So we're going to talk about both of those today. And I'm going to go ahead and hit the slide with our names on it and introduce ourselves. So I'll go first. So I'm Lori Sabata. I am the education developer here at ACUHO-I, and online and presenting with me today is Spencer Giese, and I'll let Spencer introduce himself.
Hey everyone, research education specialist at ACUHO-I. Work a lot on our ed team with our events and our volunteer leaders, but also we've got a pretty robust online learning component that we're excited to share with you all today when we talk about RA 101 and RA 201. Before we get started, take a look at your Zoom menu. You've got a number of options there to engage with us over the course of our time today. So you should see the Q&A. Obviously, if you have questions about the courses at any point, put that in the Q&A. We've got our live chat happening. We do also have our live transcript up, so if you'd like to see the closed captioning on that, you can turn that on your end. And finally, if you're joining us and watching the recording, thanks for tuning in later on. You see our contact information there. Feel free to email either of us any questions you might have, or reach out to us any area on the ACUHO-I website that you'd like to. Let's talk about the overview for a session today, Lori.
All right. All right, so what we're going to go through today is we are going to first talk about the two courses that I mentioned, RA1 and RA201, talking about how they're similar, how they're different from one another. We're going to talk about how do you actually purchase the two courses, how would you conceptually use the courses on your campus, and then we're going to go through some screenshots of some key features of the course, and then take a little bit of a deeper dive into some of the modules and the content that's in there. And we've got some time for question and answer after that.
Outstanding. Well, first, let's talk about what are these courses. And we've got a poll first. Shoot, I forgot about that poll.
Yep,
let's deploy that.
All right, so let's see if I can do this right, because it's been a little while since I've done a poll. So, oh, here it is.
All right, so right now you should be seeing on your screen just a what are you interested in learning about today? Give us a bit of insight on why you're tuning in, and we will do our best to tailor our conversation toward that. So your options you're seeing on your screen, you've used RA 101 in the past, you'd like to learn more about RA 201. You are new to planning student staff training at your school and you're exploring options, and you're looking to supplement your in-person training. Outstanding. And then of course other, because in a survey we need that other slot.
All right, I'm going to share the results of that.
Certainly. So
see this.
You should be seeing that you all, our audience today really wants to look at ways to supplement their in-person training. And some of you are exploring your options as someone new to planning student staff training at your school. So you are in the right place. So let's talk about what RA 101 and what RA 201 are. A few years ago, prior to a pandemic, we were planning ahead, or we just got really lucky in this. We had recognized at ACUHO-I that there was a great need for resources for our member schools to have when it comes to training the student staff in your residence life and housing departments. For our session today, we're going to use the word RA. That embodies the student staff member that you may call a resident advisor, a resident assistant, a community advisor. Whatever that term is on your campus, we are referring to them as RAs for ease of communication through this session. So we took this need in campus housing to be able to train student staff, paraprofessionals, on the basics of what it is to be an RA. So we polled quite a few of our members to find out what are the core components that an RA is at nearly every school. And then we worked with some content matter experts to create trainings that a school could hold virtually, to then be able to maximize the time you have outside of training, outside of those basic topics, to be able to then meet with your staffs, train them on the university and college specific topics that you have, and truly build community as staffs and get ready to open a building and build community with the students that are moving on your campuses. So as someone who'd be overseeing training, you would have access to monitor each of the RA's process through their material and ensure that the training is complete in the critical areas that you would need on your campus. We have two courses, RA 101 and RA 201. RA 101 is either it's the first time you're using it on your campus, you'd have all of your student staff go through RA 101. And then in subsequent years or in subsequent trainings, RA 201 is really made for someone who's gone through 101 first. So that might be, you might put both those trainings together in the same year, or in subsequent years, you could have all your new staff members go through RA 101 and all your returning staff members go through RA 201. So they both had an online component to their trainings, but more tailored to their experiences and how much they knew about the position. Things that we have in these courses, we've got activities, we have reflections, we have class discussions, and we use a variety of media to convey those ideas. Those are videos, articles, and really, again, we want to free up your time on your college campuses to meet with your students to talk about those university and college specific topics, and allowing this training to kind of talk about those overarching topics that are in RA roles across the world. And we'll go through the modules in a moment to tell you what those topics are that we hold in these sessions. And certainly we've seen that the need for this has grown so much more in a COVID time, where we don't want students in large spaces learning generalized content anymore. We need that spacing. And also we're trying to save you funds that you might need to spend on your campus to reserve large spaces to train your staff. So there's a number of great ways that this can help your program. But Lori, let's talk about pricing.
Yeah, so we have sort of evolved our pricing over the years. I think this might be our fourth or fifth year doing RA 101, and we have arrived at probably the best way for you to be able to use this on your campus is to have you buy it per seat. So the member price is $18 a seat. The non-member price is $30 a seat. And basically what you do just keeps it simple rather than having to buy a tier or a package or trying to predetermine where you might fit in one of those things. You simply decide ahead of time, if I've got 36 RAs, then I'm going to buy 36 seats in it. And they can sometimes be referred to as codes or tokens. If you're familiar with this type of a system, but that's how you do it. And I'm going to mention here before I forget, and I'll probably say it like 3 or 4 more times in the course of this, and it's on our website too, that it's important to remember that when you're trying to figure out how many seats you might want to buy, to also include your admins in that. And we're going to talk about admins a little bit later. I'm going to talk about that. You want to include those because admins will need a seat in the course just like your RA staff will. And then also want to mention too that, it isn't like a one and done kind of deal. So if you decide, that you need, obviously things change. So maybe you decide you need 4 more seats, or maybe I decide I want to put all my professional staff through this, which is something that's a lot of people do is they'll buy it, early in the spring, and then over the summer they'll have their professional staff go through it before they put their student staff through it. My point of that was that you can buy extra codes at any time. So you can just go back online and say, oh, I need 4 extra codes or 5 extra codes, or I forgot one, and you can buy just one. So we try to really make this as flexible as possible. And I put a link on this slide, and I'm going to attempt to put this in chat as well so that you can click on this and just read more details about how exactly the purchase works. But basically, it's an online purchase that you do with a credit card. And, we try to make it as simple as possible. So Spencer, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add there.
The other component I think is important to emphasize is how long those seats are able to be used. So if you purchase a number of seats for your campus, you have quite a bit of time to use those, whether that is you're choosing to use some of them in the spring, some of them in the summer, some of them in August. You have that flexibility. So Lori, how long is a code good for if you purchase that at a campus?
So codes for the student staff, they actually have 8 weeks to go through the course. So, and they're independent of each other. So if you have, let's say you have 12 staff and two of the staff activate codes in March because they want to look at it, and then the other staff aren't, like Spencer said, aren't going to look at it until September, that's okay. They start that sort of 8 week period independent of one another. So basically what I'm saying is once someone starts the course, they have 8 weeks to finish it. But there isn't really a hard and fast, expiration time of like, oh, it's March and I bought 36 codes and I only used, six of them. Now I won't be able to use them because they're going to expire. No, that is not an issue. But there is an expiration date on the actual code once you start it. But again, they're independent of each other. So it's okay for some staff to start at some time and some to start a little bit later. And that's for lots of reasons. One being that you really want people to finish the course, and having a deadline to do so, I think, is always helpful with that. One thing I kind of did forget to mention too about purchasing the codes, and I think this kind of comes up later in FAQs, is when you're thinking about RA1 and 201 and you think about what if I don't know how many of one code I want to purchase versus another. Like, I don't know if I want to purchase, I'm going to buy 36 of one, but then I don't know how many of those codes. What if I want to shift some of those over to RA201? You can do that. So that would just be a conversation that we would have, and I would go ahead and, shift those around for you. So that's okay to do as well, because sometimes it's really hard to plan ahead, especially if you were buy something now that you were not going to use until July. It's hard to tell what's going to happen. So we can be very flexible with that
Well,
as well.
and in the realm of res life, and as a a 10-year practitioner in the field, I know that you might have someone who's a returning staff member. You're planning on returning to the staff. You've got them all set. You're going to have them do RA201, and they decide to take on another opportunity and leave the position. So then you have to hire a new person. And now, well, shoot, we need to give them an RA101 code. That's why those codes are interchangeable in terms of however many you purchase for your department. We can work with you to make sure you've got the allotment you need for each RA101 or RA201.
Right. So all you do is just email me and say, hey, Lori, I'm not going to use these 12 codes of RA101. I want to use them for RA201 instead. We can do that. We do it all the time.
Do it all the time.
Yep.
And don't worry, we also, and we'll talk about this later, we also get a lot of student emails. They get really nervous when they get to that end of that 8-week window and whoops. So we hear from
They
a number of
do.
your students in your campuses.
Yeah, I get some phone calls, like panic phone calls, Friday night. How long does this course take to take? Which is an actual question that
Yeah.
people want to know. So I'll just go ahead and answer it now since I brought it up. So my standard answer to that is 10 hours. A lot of that depends on the pace at which an individual may read and absorb information. But that's the standard answer that I would give. I say it's probably reasonably less than that. But it certainly gets people, when I have the panicked call at Friday night, how long does this course take? And I say 10 hours, like, oh no, well, yeah. I mean, I would say this, if you're calling on a Friday night and you haven't done it yet and it's due the next day, you're probably going to be up a good part of the night. That would also be something I would say.
And that is where we could really use your help as administrators, making sure that your student staff have great timelines and when to achieve this. And if there's achievement marks that you'd like to have, hey, we want you to complete module 1 by blank, module 2 by blank, just so they're not trying to do the whole thing all at once.
Right, and that makes me think of, I know that I have a bullet in this slide later on that talks about, because Spencer mentioned, you know, having a good plan to administer this, good communication plan and a good plan to roll this out on your campus so that students don't get in that situation. Is, of course, there's always going to be some that are going to leave it to the last minute. There's not a lot that can be done about that. But I have, over the years, collected some really good sample communications that other campuses have used to communicate this, that I've gotten permission to go ahead and share with others, that can help you get started with that and do that in a really good way. So I want to mention that as well. That was a good point, Spencer. And then I was going to go ahead, Spencer, on and talk a little bit about course implementation on your campus. And this won't be the last time that you'll see this information. So it's not like if you buy the course, you're going to have to remember all this. You'll get really detailed instructions from me. You'll get tired of hearing from me probably. But I sent out a set of really detailed instructions. I also do I'm not going in order here of what's on the screen, but that's okay. I also do a really detailed admin training. So what I like to do, and it's not mandatory at all, it's only if you want to, but sometimes I find it helpful if I spend maybe 10 to 15 minutes on a Zoom call with the team that's, even if it's just one person, that's fine, or if it's a team of people that are going to be implementing the course on their campus, just to kind of get to know each other, because once the course kind of gets rolling, it's especially if you have a really large group going through it, I'm sort of like your silent partner in all of this. So, when there's or login, something with login, or someone has a problem with creating their account, I'm there to help with those kind of things. So I think it's always good to sort of establish that relationship. And then I go over all of this again, and then I actually do a little demo of the admin functions and how to look at the gradebook and how all of that works. And so I'm happy to do that for your team if you wish. Some people are fine without it, but I like to do it. So let me jump back up to the top here since I'm moving around. So we use, some of you may be, familiar when you see this word Canvas. That's our learning management system. It's the platform which delivers our online content. So that is what your staff would be logging into, although it's a single sign-on, so it really looks like they're just logging into our website once they create their account. But that's all detail that you probably don't need. And I mention it again, both administrators and RAs will use codes, and they're codes or tokens, and it's basically kind of a several step process where staff needs to create an account just like they would to log into any kind of system. And once they log into that account, they have to sort of redeem this code that we will, and it's the same code for everyone, staff and admin. And once they do that, it's almost like a little purchase process. They actually put it in the cart, the code zeros is out, and then they're able to just start their training. There's a little bit of account setup that I need to do for admins so that you have a special RA 101 faculty access so that you'll be able to see the gradebook and have access to functionalities that your staff won't. So you'll be able to see who's in the course, what their progress is going through it, and you'll be able to see their final exam grades, their quiz grades. You'll be able to look at their journal assignments, at their discussions, and we're going to go through some of those details here in the next couple of slides. So I keep mentioning this term admin, but I didn't really talk a whole lot about what that means. So, and I did say, as the first bullet says here, that we will set those up in the system for you. So admins can monitor the progress of the students as they're completing, I guess I did talk about this, journal assignments, quizzes, and final exam. You'll be able to view their grades. You'll be able to mark them as complete or incomplete. And then what's important too is to know that, so your group will be your own separate cohort. So you won't see students from other courses. Students won't see other students from, when I say courses, I meant other campuses. So you're in your own separate cohort within the course. So I wanted to point that out. And the same goes for when they're participating in discussions. They will not be, I think this bullet is wrong. It says students will only see and participate in discussions with other students. Yeah, with other students from their campus. That's right. So only the students on their campus will they participate in discussions with. I think our first iteration of the course was sort of an all play, so everyone saw each other's discussions, and that was kind of neat but kind of crazy at the same time. So we don't do that anymore. And again, detailed instructions, I'll send that to you. I'm probably being overly detailed right now. And again, I have some sample communications to share with you that I think would be helpful. All right, we said we were going to talk a little bit about what's actually in the course, or some high-level topics.
Certainly. So let's take a look at these 4 modules that we have in RA 101. So our first module, self-awareness, talking about kind of that mentality to have while in the RA role. We talk about social justice, conflicts, bias, self-care, stress management. I mean, we are the full plate of things that RAs need to be considering about themselves and what they carry with them in the position when working with others. Module 2, we talk about student awareness. This is a lot about mental health and working with students in their wings and their halls and being mindful of warning signs and how to work with students that may be having mental health concerns. It is at a surface level, and it is a module I would say that you then as a supervisor would go through, look at what they're learning, and then take an additional step in maybe a team or in-hall training time in a small group and make sure that then you have the campus specific policies and practices shared with them after that. But really we give you a broad scope view of that. We have team awareness as our third module. Really team dynamics, working with others. As you think of what that RA team looks like, this is a great module there for them to consider what it's like to work with others of different mindsets, different personality types, things like that. And then really our module 4 is putting it all together. So not only expounding on the things that they've learned in the course and how they're going to put it into the role they're playing, but also acknowledging things they're going to learn to the RA position that they can take forth with them into a future job, future career, future year. Our RA, so that's RA 101.
Oh, that was actually I think that was RA 201, but
that
that's
was
okay.
RA 201. Oh
Yep,
my
yep.
gosh,
That's okay.
I'm so sorry, everybody.
That's all right.
I'm putting the horse in front of the cart here. I was thinking those were pretty high level.
Yeah. Oh, hold on. I'm all over the place now. Wait.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I got it.
I click on one wrong slide over here and it's all over. So that's RA 201. So advanced topics for a student staff member who had already been through an RA training, whether maybe that is a returner on your staff currently, or maybe that's someone who's already gone through 101. RA 101, which we now have on the screen in front of us, these are really the basics of being an RA. So the world around us, understanding what is residential community, what does it look like to build connections with students on campus, how to have conversations, how to really provide quality service, customer service to students that are in need. Our module 2, being that agent of the institution, being mindful of the role they play in a campus environment, that they are representing both the school and themselves and their hall, and talking about being a team member there. Our module 3, our cool, clear head. That's kind of your behind closed doors virtual style. So really starts to have our students that are going through the process think about how can they confront issues, how can they identify safety concerns. When we talk about on a pretty basic level, mental health, crisis, other safety related items in your staffs, in your time, you're going to want to build upon those with your teams in person. And then our fourth module of RA 101 is self and self-care. So a really important concept that we wanted to help students read about, think about, and really process through, and how are they going to take care of themselves while in an RA type role. Certainly things that you'll want to talk about as a supervisor as well, but just acknowledging those practices and those best practices to them in this course. So yeah, just watch those slides in reverse, and I mean, it'll go really well for you.
It's fine. Yeah, and I think we also wanted to call out our subject matter experts that helped us create this course. So we certainly, Spencer and I didn't write it. We called on a number of professionals in the field to help us to write both of these courses and pull all of the content together. And it was quite an undertaking. It was a lot of fun to work on, and we're really excited about what we're able to come up with.
Great. So let's talk about some of those activities that are in the course. Lori, I'll throw it over to you.
Sure, yeah. So I wanted to talk about some more detail about, I mentioned a couple of things early on when I was talking about the admin functions, and I talked about activities and grades and quizzes and things that were going to be going on that admins would be looking at. So I wanted to go back a little bit and talk about some of those things. So one of the things I mentioned was journal activities, and the reason it says 18 up there is because I meant that to say there are actually 18 journal activities in the course, and basically what they are is they're prompts. that are meant to be reflective in nature, and that's why we call it a journal. It's has many purposes. One of them, I think, is to try to help the student staff think about their role as an RA, and sometimes asks them to think about situations that they might encounter and how they might react to them, or just to help them really think about some things and journal that. And it's really meant to be a couple of things. One, to sort of be a resource to them later, so that when some of these things actually happen, they can go back and look at, how did I already thought through that, how I was going to handle this. Maybe I should go look at that. And sometimes in the process of thinking things through, that's helpful too. And then the fact that it's online as well, I think really helps, because I think it's good for discussion afterwards. And you can use these journal activities in whatever way you want. And lots of people put a lot of emphasis on journal activities and what's said, and they're not graded, so there's no points assigned. But I think the prompts are such that they're things that you would actually want to talk about, possibly as a group, or people do all kinds of different things with them. So it's submitted online and goes into the gradebook, even though they're not graded, but it's there so that you can read the responses. And obviously I have some gibberish, fill in here. It's not an actual journal assignment, because I wouldn't want to put someone's actual work up there, but I was just wanted to show it as an example. When you view it in the gradebook, if you look over to the right-hand side, you have the opportunity to be able to mark it as complete or incomplete. I think there's one other option there. I'm not sure what it is, something like that. You can make some comments here. You can actually, videotape, or not videotape, but well, actually you probably could, or put some audio in there. I've never really seen anybody do that. Most people just mark it, complete or incomplete. So those are a little bit about the journal activities. There are discussions in the course. There's 8 different discussion activities, again, meant to be reflective, but also in the spirit of a discussion, meant to have a discussion about something. So you've got your cohort, you have your group in there, and it's meant to get the group of your student staff discussing things together and kind of getting to know each other and sort of helping build that community a little bit. You can go in and actually view the discussions. They're not in the gradebook, they're in a separate section. And if you're familiar with Canvas, you're familiar with how that works. But it's your typical threaded activity. Again, not graded, not in the grade book, but you can search for entries to find a particular student or staff. You can hit like on the posts. You can participate in the discussions as an admin. So I just wanted to go over those for a little bit. And again, up to you how you want to use the course. Some people put a lot of emphasis on discussions, others do not. Up to you once you look at the course and decide how you're going to use it. I've mentioned the gradebook a couple of times. So the gradebook is something that only admin, RE101 faculty, specially designated faculty would have access to. This allows you to see the journal assignments that I showed you a little while ago, where you can actually, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but when you click on these little icons, it means someone has submitted a journal assignment, and you can actually view those in the speed grader, it's called, that I showed you a little bit earlier. And so you can see that the staff is listed down the left-hand side, and that the assignments are listed across the top. And this is just a screenshot, so it's only showing you some of it, but the final exam that I'm going to talk about in a minute is listed in here also, and you would be able to drill down into that too and see particular answers. Some people like to do that because it helps them see if, in general, maybe their entire group is missing a particular question. So maybe that concept is something that needs to be reinforced. Again, up to you and how much detail you want to drill down into the final exam. So let's talk some more about the final exam. So the final exam is kind of technically in the course what triggers a completion. There isn't a completion certificate or anything like that that automatically comes out. I think it's kind of up to you to sort of look at the grade book and see who's passed with the 75% or better, or maybe even, we can't adjust the threshold technically in Canvas to be a different. So if you decided you wanted it to be 100%, that would be something you'd have to communicate to your staff. Specifically say, hey, I want you to get 100% on this. Keep taking it till you get 100%. That can be your own requirement. But that's how we have it set at a 75% passing grade. It's got 10 questions on it. It's not meant to be tricky, but it's meant to be where, some people have said, I went through this final exam to see if I could pass it without having taken the course, and it was no, not really. You pretty much have to take the course, I would say, to be able to to pass the exam. So this one does have points in it. It'll show up in the grade book. I mentioned earlier, you'll be able to drill down and see specific, answers that were gotten wrong on this one. They get multiple attempts on it, so they can keep taking it over and over again until they get the passing grade, but they don't see their answers. So this isn't just a screenshot, quick example of what the questions kind of look like. And then when they actually take the final exam and get them wrong, like I did, so I don't automatically know the answers off the top of my head, it'll mark them incorrect, but it doesn't say what the answer is. So they've got to go back and research it and keep taking it until they get that 75% threshold or whatever you say you need it to be. So that's a little bit about the final exam. Oh, wow, we're at FAQs already. So I know that we might have some questions, and I'm just looking over at the question area to see if we have any. None yet, but I'm going to walk through these, or Spencer and I will walk through these. And if there is anything that I have missed, please feel free again to put that in either chat or the question and answer area. So these are compiled from other times that we have done these types of informational sessions, what people generally ask, and they're on our website as well with a little bit more detail, but I'm going to walk through them. So one question that people ask a lot is, do all of my RAs need to start the course at the same time? So we touched on this a little bit earlier with how the codes work and sort of the 8-week the 8-week expiration time. So no, they don't have to, not at all do they have to start the course at the same time. They can start and stop at any intervals they want, just knowing that when they do start, they need to finish it within 8 weeks. So I hope that makes sense and that's not confusing. I guess we talked about this other one too, mixing and matching the RA 101 and 201 codes. Yes, absolutely. Again, it's something that I would need to do for you. Go ahead and shift them around, but yes, absolutely. We do it all the time. Oh, I guess I talked about this one too. How long does it take to complete the course? We say 10 hours. I actually think it's probably a little bit less than that. But I think if you were to actually go in and read every article in detail and really take your time doing it, I would say about 10 hours. Let's put it this way. Definitely don't leave it till the night before because you're going to be up all night. Will you have access to the training materials that your RAs do? Yes. Once you have designated yourself and or others as an admin, yes, you'll have access to the same materials that they have and in an admin view that will allow you to see their grades and discussions, and you'll be able to see a list of who's logged in and who hasn't. And by viewing the gradebook, you'll get an idea of their progression through the course as well. This is one. So how do I know that my staff is taking the course and not just flipping through the pages? So there is, and I'll show you a little bit. I'm actually going to show a couple. I'm actually going to flip off of this PowerPoint for a little bit and just actually show you the course and just kind of scroll up and down real quick so you can see what it looks like. But there are some green checks. And when someone views a page, you'll see a green check on the page. So that's how you know that they're going through that. And then another way that you're going to know is looking at the gradebook. Because so while there's a page of material on there that, if it's just something they read, you have no way of knowing whether their eyeballs actually went over that and it went into their brain or not, but you'll know that they viewed the page. And you would know by looking at the journal assignments that whether or not those were done and the quizzes were done in past, whether or not they were just flipping through it. So the gradebook is your key to knowing that. And then big one, can I get a preview of the course to see how the material fits into my training program? Yes.
Well, wait, there's more today. Yeah, for joining
yes.
us. We want to provide you a demo of the course.
That's right. Yes, definitely going to get a demo. This will not be the last time you see this material, and certainly not those screenshots that I flashed up there will not be the last you'll see of the course. And I think I'm going to back out of this and stop sharing my screen for a second and actually show the course. So give me just 1 second to shift over and do that, because I know that it's going to go by fast, but I just want you to see what it actually looks like if you haven't already had a demo at some point, just so you could have an idea. So let me do that. All right. So Spencer, you should be seeing the RA 101 demo. Am I doing it right?
Correct.
Okay.
We are seeing the insides of the canvas set up for RA 101.
Great, because I always get nervous that I'm showing my inbox or something. Nobody wants to see that. It might be kind of small. Let me make it just a little bit bigger so you can see. So this is the inside, this is the module page, and I just wanted to show you how one would actually go through the course and what some of the pages look like. I'm just going to start on module. Let me just take a scroll through it first so you can just get an idea of like, how long is this? So we've got just overview module, introduction to the course, and some of these modules that Spencer talked about earlier should look familiar to you, the world around us. I'm going to scroll through and stop talking for a minute. There's your module 2, being an agent. Module 3, cool, clear head. So as you can see, we said 10 hours. It's not a short course. I mean, there is a lot of content in here. And then here's your module 4 on self and self-care, which is probably one of the shortest and probably easiest of the modules. And then the last module is the final exam. So that's just a really, really quick just roll through so you can see what it looks like. And again, you can get a demo, so it's not the last time you're going to see this. Let me show RA201 really fast too. Yes, are you seeing the RA201 demo, Spencer?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Looks and you might want to make that a little bit bigger for
let me
folks.
let me make it bigger. Oops, now it's too big. Too big. Is that good?
Well, it'll work.
Okay. Okay, so this is RA201. Again, look and feel very much the same. Module 1, self-awareness. Module 2, student awareness. And this RA201 has a lot of pre-survey and post-survey. They're like knowledge checks. So it'll start out by asking you, what do you think you know on this topic? And then it goes through the content. And then at the end, you kind of take it again, but sort of in a little bit different way and see how much you actually learned. So that's one really neat thing about RA201 that I like a lot. So module, I skipped past module. Oh, there's module. Well, we're in module 2. Where was that? Up here. Yeah, student awareness. And module 4, putting it all together. So again, a lot of content. I think what I'm going to do too real quick, and I know we want to get to, we want to be respectful of time, and I also want to get to some of the questions that I saw come in, but I want to flip back over to RA101 because I said I was going to show what it looked like, and I didn't do that. So I just wanted to sort of demonstrate, if you're not familiar with Canvas, like what the course actually looks like when you're inside of it. So it's basically, it's a next and previous. So it's very, I sort of call it horizontal. So they're going to get in, they're going to start at that page that listed all those modules, and then they're going to keep hitting next like this and flow on through. Always to the right, to the right, to the right. There's a journal assignment. So this is what it actually looks like. Lots of journal assignments in the first module. All right, so I'm going to stop doing that. And I'm going to go back to our PowerPoint here because it has our contact information. And so we want to make sure that we are showing that. Yes, so we talked about the demo, contact us. Here's our emails, and let's get to those questions. I see a couple here. So the first one, it's a great question. Is the course customizable in the event we would like to add supplemental materials specific to our campus? Unfortunately, at this point, not yet. That is something that's in the works that we have been working on for a little while, so we are not able to customize any content as yet, but that is in the works. So yes, we would not be able to do that at this time. How do we sign up for admin training? Just an email to me would work, and I'd be happy to do that. Even before I've done this even before you purchase the course. So if it's something that you just want to jump on with your staff and look at it a little bit more, or just get some, questions answered about how would we actually administer this on our campus, I'm happy to do that as well. I also tend to like to do it after the course is purchased and you say, okay, I'm going to start this in 2 weeks. And I'm like, okay, let's get together and talk about it a little bit. I just find that always makes it go a lot smoother. And then I get to know you too, which is good. I hope
Can
that
I,
answered
can
that
I,
question.
I want to interact for those of you who are hanging out with us, if you could just in the chat, a question I have for you all, as we've gone through this online training option, just when do you think you would put this on for your student staffs? Is this something you'd think about doing in April and May before they would leave for summer break? Or is this something you'd do in, July, August when they're coming back and you're getting ready to open for the fall? So if you could just put that in the chat, it would just be helpful for us as we think about, because that last question that asked about course customization, while I know we can't do that in March and most likely not April, Lori, I feel like we've got pretty significant hope that in a July, August context, we're going to have that ability to share with our members to use. So
Yep.
as I see a lot of these answers coming in August, July, August, over the summer, there's certainly hope there. And I know we are pushing forward, and bless our IT team for their help on this too, because we know it's a great need and we know it'll make the course even better when you can go in and edit key components and make them campus specific.
Yep, you're right, Spencer. And for those of you who know Canvas really well, it's blueprint courses is what it is that allows you to have that capability. It exists. And as Spencer said, bless our IT team for working hard on this. I know they are. So thanks, Spencer. Yeah, that's a good thing to mention. Okay, so let's see. Let's make sure I got all these. So another one, is the module content adapted, updated in alignment with the RA experience in COVID-19? No, we have not done that yet. But again, as Spencer
And
mentioned,
I think that's where we talk about the general topics of being an RA, and we know COVID-19 protocol on college campuses is widely different, and we don't necessarily feel like we have the authority to be like, okay, this is how you should be handling it. That is going to be that's going to need to be a topic that you all discuss in your, whether that's full staff trainings or individually supervisor to staffs, to talk about, okay, what does it look like to be an RA in the COVID-19 environment? And hopefully by the time we get to August, we're going to still be in a COVID-19 environment. We're still going to be working with it, but we might be able to make some happy adjustments to how our students are able to interact with one another. Fingers crossed.
yep, that's a good point, Spencer. And while you were saying that, I realized that I missed part of the question. I answered half of the question about the admin training, but there's something after that about, can we create discussion questions, or are they already created in the discussion board section? So they're already created in the discussion board section, but I'm glad you asked that question, because discussion questions are the one thing that I actually can customize, because well, you don't want to know all the technical reasons in Canvas why, but yes, I actually can do that. That would be something we would need to work on together. So you would reach out to me and say, hey, I got a couple of discussion questions I want to add to this, and I can go ahead and I don't think admins, I shouldn't say I don't think admins cannot create them on their own, but I can. So that would be something we can work on together, and I've done it before, and I'm certainly willing to do that if discussion questions are something that you feel strongly about as a component in the course. So yeah, sorry I missed that in the first time. Okay, I'm gonna go back down to
Teresa, how many
yes.
codes does each seat come with, or do we need to purchase a seat per staff member? Yes.
Yes, you would need to purchase a seat per staff member. So you would determine ahead of time, if I'm understanding the question correctly, you would determine ahead of time how many seats you think you're going to need for your staff as best you can, knowing that that's difficult sometimes. But estimate as best you can, include your admins in that number, and then purchase that exact amount. And if you need more later, you can go back and just add them on, and they just get added to that code. So you get one code that all of your staff uses, and those extra seats would just get added to that code.
All right. Jay Mays, can we view the modules of our ACUHO-I online?
Yes. Do you mean in a demo? I'm assuming that means in a demo. Yes, you can get a demo of both courses. In fact, I usually end up I think the way I do it, I just give both of them out at the same time. I think that's how I do it. So I hope that answers that question.
Great. Well, that's what we've had come in for questions on our subjects today. And certainly, I'm thrilled by all of you hanging out with us this afternoon and being attentive and asking some great questions as you consider using these online training modules to assist you on what you're doing when you're trying to train your RAs. Certainly, and as a former practitioner, I know that your time is so valuable to work with students, whether it's face to face or in one-on-one contacts, to really talk about the things that are crucial for your hall and crucial for your campus. And by using this program, you can cover a lot of those general topics. You can have students cover those autonomously on their own so that you can really utilize and maximize your time to work with your students on those campus specific items and really build communities as a staff. Um, and certainly we also have the ability through this to engage with a lot of different learning styles rather than just lecture in a hall style. So you've got our emails in the chat. Certainly feel free to reach out with any questions that come up. We do have the list of folks who registered today, and Lori will be working with them to get out some demo options. So thank you again. Thrilled that you joined us. If you're watching this recording, thanks for watching the recording and have a great day. We look forward to helping you with RA staff training very soon.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Thanks, Spencer.
Bye, everyone.